The Sith have spent thousands of years perfecting the art of creating monsters, from pain rituals that rewire the brain to ancient sorcery that bends reality itself. Every training method is designed to strip away everything human and replace it with pure, concentrated power. Today I'm breaking down all of them, and it starts with the one rule that made everything else possible, the rule of two, the master and apprentice. It sounds like a limitation. 2 Sith in an entire galaxy of Force users. A master and an apprentice, on the surface, that's the worst strategy imaginable. But here's the thing, it's actually the most elegant power-concentrating mechanism in all of Star Wars. Darth Bane established the rule of two roughly 1,000 years before the prequels because the Sith kept destroying themselves. Every time they built an order with hundreds of practitioners, the whole thing collapsed into backstabbing and civil war. Bane's solution was brutal simplicity. 2. That's all we get. One master who embodies the dark side, one apprentice who craves it, and the master has to teach the apprentice everything they know, which means they're literally training the person who's gonna kill them. That's not a flaw, that's the design. Each successive master inherits the accumulated knowledge of every master before them, compounding power across 1,000 years of unbroken tradition. Every training method we're about to cover exists within this framework. The rule of two isn't just a training method, it's the philosophical backbone that makes every other one possible, but philosophy only gets you so far. At some point, you need to prove you can actually fight, which brings us to the trial that separates Sith who talk about power from Sith who take it. The trial of skill, lightsaber mastery. Sith lightsaber philosophy can be summed up in 3 words: attack, attack, attack. Where the Jedi teach measured defense, patience, and waiting for your opponent to make a mistake, the Sith teach you to never give them the chance. Every strike is meant to overwhelm. Every movement is designed to seize initiative and keep it. Minimal defensive posturing, maximum aggression. You don't block, you make them block. And the proof of concept? Darth Maul on Naboo. 1 Sith apprentice, 2 Jedi, and he held his ground against both of them simultaneously. That's not luck, that's training. Here's the thing, the training itself was basically designed to kill you. Apprentices fought multiple opponents at once, dueled against holographic enemies, programmed to adapt and counter their specific techniques, and sparred under deliberately compromised conditions like zero visibility or environmental hazards that could crush you if you lost focus for half a second. Your final exam was literally trying to kill your teacher. This created a natural selection problem that the Sith considered a feature, not a bug. Mistakes in lightsaber training didn't get you a bad grade, they got you a missing limb. Or worse, so only the genuinely talented survived to the next level, which is, not ideal for enrollment numbers, but extremely effective for producing killers. But if you think swinging a laser sword is brutal, wait until you hear what the Sith did to your body when they put the weapon down. The ordeal of the flesh, pain tolerance. Darth Vader is in constant, unrelenting agony every single second of every single day. His suit pinches nerve endings. His respirator forces air into scarred lungs. His prosthetic limbs send phantom pain signals that never stop. And here's the thing, that's not a bug, it's a feature. Palpatine designed it that way. He deliberately made Vader's life support system more painful than it needed to be, because Sith philosophy operates on one core principle: suffering makes you stronger. Pain generates rage. Rage deepens your connection to the dark side, and the dark side feeds on all of it. It's a beautiful little cycle if you're a psychopath, but Vader's just the most famous example. Physical suffering has been baked into Sith training for as long as the Sith have existed. In the old expanded universe, apprentices were subjected to brutal endurance trials on harsh worlds, exposed to extreme environments, and forced to push past every physical limit imaginable. Some masters deliberately wounded their students, not to kill them, but to teach them to channel agony into power. Legends material describes tortures that would make a medieval dungeon look like a spa day. The worst part? Certain techniques required the apprentice to use the dark side to sustain themselves through injuries that should have killed them. Break, survive, break again, survive again, each cycle expanding their capability a little more. It's the moment Sith training stops being about learning skills and starts being about fundamentally rewiring your relationship with your own body. But if pain reshapes the body, the next method goes after something far harder to rebuild. The trial of spirit, confronting the dark side. You remember the cave on Dagobah. Luke walks in, sees Vader, cuts his head off, and the mask cracks open to reveal his own face. That's the Jedi version of a spiritual trial. You confront your darkness and resist it. The Sith version is the exact opposite. You don't resist it. You let it in completely. The trial of spirit is the most abstract and genuinely eerie method on this list. It's not about combat or pain tolerance. It's about sitting alone with the worst parts of yourself, your deepest fears, your shame, your capacity for cruelty, and instead of fighting them, you open the door and invite them to stay permanently. Legends materials describe apprentices being sent to locations of ancient Sith trauma, battlefields where thousands died, tombs where dark side energy had been pooling for centuries. The proximity to these sites could trigger visions and psychological confrontations that no meditation technique could replicate. You weren't just thinking about your darkness, you were drowning in it. But here's where it gets genuinely disturbing. The goal isn't to understand the dark side or control it. The goal is complete integration. The apprentice reaches a point where they can no longer distinguish between their own desires and the desires of the dark side itself. Their previous identity gets dissolved and rebuilt with the dark side as the organizing principle. It stops being something you use. It becomes something you are, which is, not ideal. But if losing your identity to an ancient cosmic force sounds bad, wait until you hear about the Sith Lord who decided the entire philosophy needed a rewrite. The Rule of One, Darth Krayt's vision. About 130 years after the fall of the Empire, a Sith Lord named Darth Krayt looked at the Rule of Two and basically said, "This is stupid." And honestly, his argument was pretty compelling. Here's the thing. The Rule of Two is designed to destroy itself. Every generation, the apprentice kills the master. That's the whole point. Bane built an organization where the succession plan is literally assassination. Krayt's critique was simple. Why build a system that's at its weakest every time leadership changes hands? Every transition is a vulnerability. Every dead master is a gap in institutional knowledge. So Krayt proposed something radical. One supreme Sith Lord at the top. Not two, one. Everyone else, every dark side practitioner, every warrior, every priest, serves within a structured hierarchy beneath that single authority. No plotting, no succession through murder, just organized collective power directed by one vision. Training looked completely different. Instead of one master pouring everything into one apprentice and hoping they stabbed them at the right time, Krayt's order used standardized curricula, formal testing, and institutional frameworks. Think less ancient wizard mentorship and more military academy with force lightning electives. Consistency over individual brilliance. Reliable soldiers over unpredictable prodigies. The philosophical tension here is genuinely fascinating. Bane believed competition and betrayal refined the Sith into their strongest possible form. Krayt believed that same competition was bleeding them dry. One valued individual power above everything. The other valued what that power could accomplish when organized. But if you think philosophical disagreements between Sith Lords sound intense, wait until you see how they settled things at the Academy on Korriban. The Korriban Academy trials, the competitive survival. Every other Sith training method we've talked about has one thing in common: a master carefully cultivating a single student. Korriban threw that entire concept into a meat grinder. The Sith Academy on Korriban was basically the Hunger Games with lightsabers. Dozens of apprentices trained simultaneously, and the graduation requirement was simple: be the last one breathing. This wasn't a school, it was a filtration system designed to find the one person worth keeping, and it used your classmates' corpses as the filter. The trials operated in progressive tiers, and each tier got worse. Initial trials tested basic force capability and combat skills where failure meant defeat. Painful, humiliating, but survivable. Intermediate trials introduced lethal combat in arenas where your opponent's explicit goal was to kill you. And the advanced trials? Those tested whether you'd betray your allies or violate every personal taboo you had left just to win. The Academy didn't just want to know if you were strong, it wanted to know if you were broken enough. Old Republic-era materials describe Sith assassin droids hunting apprentices through dangerous environments and ritual combat where victory gave you tactical advantages over your remaining rivals. Every element was designed to create institutional Darwinism. A bench of highly trained killers existed at all times, ready to step into leadership if the current master and apprentice got themselves destroyed, which happened a lot, and Korriban itself made everything worse. The ancient Sith homeworld was soaked in dark side energy, a desert wasteland filled with tombs of dead Sith lords whose presence could drive weaker minds insane. The planet was actively trying to break you, but if you think surviving a death academy sounds rough, wait until you hear about the trial where your own master shoots lightning at you until you either learn to take it or stop existing. Force Lightning Initiation, the elemental power. Learning. Force Lightning is probably the most insane skill acquisition on this entire list, because the foundation isn't some calm meditation exercise, it's rage. You have to channel the dark side through your body with enough intensity and hatred to physically manifest it as electrical energy pouring out of your fingertips. And if you can't maintain control over that kind of raw power while it's literally coursing through you, you don't get a bad grade. You get an uncontrolled discharge that kills you, which is, not ideal, but the payoff is one of the most devastating weapons in the entire Sith arsenal. Nobody showcases that better than Palpatine. In Revenge of the Sith, he's throwing lightning around during his fight with Mace Windu, and it's effective. But fast forward to Return of the Jedi, and the guy is filling an entire throne room with sustained electrical output while barely breaking a sweat. Decades of refinement turned an already terrifying ability into something almost incomprehensible in scale. Here's where it gets really interesting though. Advanced practitioners didn't just throw bolts. They could focus lightning into precision strikes, spread it as a wide area discharge, charge objects, create electrical barriers, or even supercharge their own bodies for bursts of enhanced speed. It's not just a weapon, it's an entire combat system. But the part that makes Force Lightning truly Sith, the psychological damage. Palpatine's torture of Luke wasn't just about hurting him physically. Every second of that lightning was designed to overwhelm his mind, to drown him in pain until hope itself felt impossible. Force Lightning doesn't just destroy your body, it breaks your spirit. But if raw elemental destruction sounds dangerous, wait until you hear what happens when the Sith start rewriting the laws of nature itself. Sith alchemy and sorcery, the twisted arts. Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? That single line from Palpatine is one of the most iconic moments in the entire franchise. And what he describes, a Sith Lord who could manipulate midi-chlorians to create life and prevent death, that's not just a cool story he's telling Anakin, that's Sith alchemy, the training method that even other Sith found genuinely disturbing. Here's the thing, everything else on this list deals with combat, mental toughness, psychological warfare. Sith alchemy leaves all of that behind and enters something closer to straight-up horror. We're talking about the manipulation of matter, life force, and fundamental reality through rituals that blur the line between science and magic so completely that the distinction stops meaning anything. In Legends materials, Sith alchemists could create twisted servant beasts by fusing multiple species together into monstrosities that shouldn't exist. They crafted enchanted artifacts capable of storing ancient knowledge or granting supernatural abilities. And the big one, the goal that drove the most ambitious practitioners absolutely insane, was immortality, splitting consciousness across multiple vessels, binding your essence to objects or locations, cheating death itself. But you didn't just wake up one morning and start creating abominations. Training in Sith alchemy required years of theoretical study before you even attempted your first working, memorizing ritualistic procedures, understanding esoteric theory that reads like a nightmare textbook. Get it wrong, and you didn't just fail. You created something you couldn't control, or worse, you became the experiment. This is power on a completely different scale. Not, I can beat you in a fight power. I can rewrite what you are at a molecular level power, which is, not ideal. But if the idea of someone reshaping your body terrifies you, wait until you hear what the Sith could do to your mind. The breaking of the will, mental domination. This is arguably the most evil thing on this entire list. Every other method involves doing something terrible to the apprentice. This one is about doing something terrible to everyone else. The breaking of the will is the Sith's training in mental domination, the ability to reach into another person's mind and make it yours. And the best example of it in action doesn't even involve the Force. Palpatine's manipulation of Anakin across episodes 2 and 3 is a masterclass in psychological destruction. He identified every vulnerability Anakin had: the fear of losing Padme, the resentment toward the Jedi Council, the desperate need for a father figure who actually trusted him. Then he exploited every one of those pressure points across years, slowly steering Anakin toward choices that served his agenda while making Anakin believe they were his own decisions. That's the terrifying part. Anakin wasn't forced. He chose. He just didn't realize the choices were designed for him. Now, the actual Actual force-based training and mental domination follows a progression that gets worse the further you go. It starts crude, overt mental commands that override conscious thought, basically forcing someone to act against their will. Blunt, effective, but obvious. The target knows something happened. The intermediate level is where it gets unsettling. Subtle manipulation, where the target doesn't even recognize they're being influenced. Implanting suggestions, reshaping emotional responses, making certain decisions feel natural when they're anything but. But the most advanced form described in Legends materials is genuinely nightmarish, completely rewriting a target's personality, their values, their beliefs, until they become a functionally different person. Not, I can make you do something. I can make you want to do something. The victim doesn't resist because the person who would have said no doesn't exist anymore, which is, not ideal. But if the idea of having your entire identity erased sounds bad, wait until you hear what the Sith demand their apprentices destroy with their own hands. The sacrifice, the final severing of ties. Every method on this list, the pain conditioning, the mental domination, the alchemy, the trials, all of it was building toward one single moment. The moment the apprentice kills who they used to be. The sacrifice is the final test, not of strength, not of skill, of commitment so absolute that the person who walks out the other side literally cannot go back. The apprentice must destroy everything connecting them to their previous life. Family, friends, values, identity, all of it burned by their own hand. Anakin Skywalker is the definitive example. When he marches into the Jedi Temple, he doesn't just betray the Order, he murders children he personally knew. He force chokes Padme, the one person he supposedly did all of this to save. In a single night, every meaningful connection Anakin Skywalker ever had is severed, not by accident, by choice. And that's the point. Legends materials take it even further. Some apprentices were required to murder their own families. Others underwent rituals called death before death, where the previous self is ceremonially killed and a new dark side identity resurrects in the same body, which is, not ideal. But here's what makes the sacrifice the most terrifying method on this list. It's not the acts themselves, it's what happens after. Once you've committed atrocities that irreversible, your brain has exactly two options: collapse under the weight of what you've done, or double down on the ideology that justifies it. The Sith are betting everything on option 2. And they're almost always right. Every future act of cruelty becomes easier because admitting the first one was wrong means admitting they destroyed their entire life for nothing. So they rationalize, they commit further, they become exactly what the Sith needed them to be. That's the Sith's greatest achievement. Not the lightning, not the alchemy. It's creating a person who burned every bridge with their own hands and convinced themselves it was transcendence. By the time they realize the truth, if they ever do, there's nothing left of the person who could have walked away. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.